If this watch can see my heartbeat, what else can it see that I can't? Your smartwatch knows when you're stressed, when your heart skips a beat, even when you've stopped breathing in your sleep. It knows when you move, when you stand, when you sit too long. It even knows when you might be getting sick. But here's a question. Can it know your peace? Because in a world that measures everything, steps, calories, heart rate, oxygen, have we forgotten how to measure what truly matters? A good friend of mine, Eli, 43 years old, he's a dad, works in marketing, lives just outside of Chicago, loves his coffee black and his weekends quiet. For his birthday, his wife got him an Apple Watch. He smiled a little sarcastically and said, "Great, another thing to remind me how little I sleep." He thought it was a toy, a digital accessory for people who post gym selfies. But a few weeks later, everything changed. It was late. The house was quiet. He was answering emails, half asleep when his wrist buzzed. Irregular heartbeat detected. He frowned, tapped the screen. "Probably just stress," he muttered. But the next morning, it buzzed again. Same alert. And the next day, again. So he told his wife, who urged him to call the doctor. He finally did, mostly just to prove the watch wrong. Within 24 hours, Eli was sitting in a cardiologist's office, hearing words he never expected. "You have early-stage atrial fibrillation. You're lucky we caught it now." That one alert, that tiny tap on his wrist, changed everything. He started walking more, sleeping better, paying attention. But something deeper happened too. He began to ask himself questions he hadn't asked in years. How did I get so disconnected from my own body? When did I start needing a device to tell me how I feel? And the big one. If this watch can see my heartbeat, what else can it see that I can't? Eli's story isn't rare. In fact, it's becoming the story of our generation, a generation living between biology and technology, faith and data, heart and hardware. So, how does this thing on your wrist even know so much? Let's break it down. Smartwatches, Apple Watch, Fitbit, Garmin, Oura, they're not just counting steps anymore. They use AI algorithms that read your heart rate variability, your oxygen levels, your stress patterns, even subtle changes in skin temperature. These devices can map your nervous system in real time. They can see how your body responds to fear, joy, caffeine, or even an argument. Harvard medical researchers found that wearables can predict stress spikes hours before you actually feel stressed. Stanford University developed an algorithm that can detect early illness 2 days before symptoms appear. They used smartwatches to predict infections before people even sneezed. And the Mayo Clinic reports that continuous heart monitoring can reduce cardiac events by up to 20%, simply because problems are caught early. That tiny screen on your wrist might just be smarter than your last 5 checkups combined. But here's the part we often miss. Data tells you what's happening in your body, not always what's happening to your soul. With all this technology, something's still missing. We can now monitor our sleep, our diet, our pulse, our pace, but not our peace. We know our blood oxygen percentage, but not the depth of our gratitude. We know our resting heart rate, but not why our heart races when we're anxious, or who we're thinking of when it does. Your watch knows how fast your heart beats, but it doesn't know why it's beating faster when you hug your child, or why it aches when you lose someone. There's no sensor for longing, no alert for loneliness, no graph for joy. We are living in a world where we know our stats, but not ourselves. Eli noticed this too. After his diagnosis, he started changing habits, but he also started changing rhythms. He began waking up early, not just to exercise, but to be still. He stopped scrolling before bed. He replaced those late-night doom scrolls with prayer, meditation, sometimes silence. He said, "I realized I'd been training my heart to work, but not to rest." That line sticks, because it's true for so many of us. We're wired, connected, efficient, and exhausted. Maybe the problem isn't the technology. Maybe it's that we've forgotten how to interpret it. Maybe the point isn't to reject AI, but to use it as a mirror. Because the data doesn't define you, it reminds you. It says, hey, you're human. You need rest. You're carrying too much. You need to breathe, and in those moments when the numbers start flashing red, that's not just an alert. That's an invitation. An invitation to slow down, to reflect, to remember what makes life actually worth tracking. What if instead of just counting your steps, you started counting your blessings too? What if you used your smartwatch as a reminder not just to stand up, but to look up, to step back from the constant buzz of the world and reconnect with the quiet pulse inside you, the one that doesn't need Wi-Fi or updates? We talk a lot about living longer, but rarely about living well. Technology can absolutely help us live longer, catch disease early, remind us to move, help us recover. But only faith, only gratitude, only love teach us how to live well. Because a long life without peace is just a longer race without rest. Let the watch measure your heartbeat, but let gratitude guide it. Let your body be monitored by AI, but let your soul be guided by something higher. Maybe what we need isn't smarter devices, but quieter moments. Moments where you silence the notifications, turn your wrist over, and just listen, not to your pulse, but to your purpose. Eli says that since his diagnosis, he hasn't just felt healthier, he's felt whole. He still wears his watch every day, but now when it buzzes, he doesn't just check his stats. He takes a breath, he checks his spirit. He says, "It's like the watch taught me to notice my own heartbeat, and that's where I started to find peace." So maybe the message is simple. Technology tells you how your heart beats. Faith tells you why. And when those two finally meet, that's when the real healing begins. So tonight, when your smartwatch tells you to stand, maybe stand for something that matters. When it tells you to breathe, take a breath not just for your lungs, but for your life. Because the greatest technology we have isn't on our wrist, it's inside our chest. It's that quiet, steady rhythm that's been with you since before you even knew what stress meant. Protect it. Listen to it. Let it remind you that peace isn't something you find, it's something you return to. And if you let it, that small screen on your wrist might do more than track your body. It might help you rediscover your soul. So live boldly. Love deeply. Breathe intentionally. Cherish the moments, both small and large, and let every beat of your heart guide you toward a life of meaning, purpose, and peace. Let your life become a story so full, so rich, so alive, that no device could ever measure it. And in that story, may you finally feel the peace your soul has always been seeking. Now, question for you. Do you think technology brings us closer to peace or pulls us away from it? Let us know in the comment below. Everything we create is built to inspire, motivate, and deliver practical tips that will empower you to be the best version of yourself. Please give us a like, hit subscribe, and join a community that's growing stronger every day. Until next time, take care.